All right, welcome, welcome. Today we're going to discuss how to seriously nourish your resilience reserves for energy and vitality, and what that means, and how that saying, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, many years ago, the best time to nourish these reserves, and we'll talk about like what I mean by that in a moment. The best time to nourish those reserves is also like yesterday, 5 years ago. And then, of course, the rest of that phrase, the second best time is now, today. So do it. It's never ever too late. It's never too late to plant those trees. It's never too late to nourish this inner honey pot, I like to call it. So we'll explore what this means and how to build this reserve of energy and vitality to carry us through life's inevitable challenges. And I wanted to get into this now because I'm noticing a little bit of a trend among my clients lately. Like it's been this week, especially with the impending holiday season, they're kind of starting to feel that sense of anxiety. And a lot of it, I think, is maybe habitualized, and also some of it is this gift. It's showing us, harkening back to when we were talking about shadows and shadow work a few weeks ago. It's letting us know, like, ooh, something's not feeling good, and I get to explore what that is. So I wanted to talk about this notion of resilience, partly because I mean it's my jam. It's important to talk about all the time, but to nourish it before we need it. And so again, talking about it kind of before the holiday season comes up. Life is going to throw us curveballs. It's going to throw us inevitable changes. And life doesn't necessarily wait for us to be ready for these challenges. And most all of them, I don't know if we could ever fully be ready for anyway. And this is why cultivating this resilience before we need it is truly essential. It helps us to be clear and steady and confident for whatever life brings. And so we'll talk about some specific practices, and I'll share a little bit about what unexpected loss taught me about the importance of nourishing this precious aspect of myself. So that's where we're headed. I am Devin, and I'm an integrative health expert and an Ayurvedic health advisor and a holistic life coach. And my mission in life is to really guide people to live nature's wisdom and rhythms, to come back to what is natural and innate for our being so that they may deepen into their journeys of healing and self-discovery and really live like they want to live with a foundation of unshakable resilience and vibrant health and joy. So on with it. Resilience is a resource. It's a very precious resource. And it's a precious resource that we must grow intentionally each day through small intentional actions. So it's this very kind of nuanced, multi-layered concept, the way that we teach about resilience at InnerSpark. It's a very holistic concept that is not just physical, it's also emotional, it's energetic, it's mental. There's many facets of resilience and what it means to be resilient. And we nourish this through the ways that we live our lives each day. So we are either depleting it or we are either nourishing it. And we can think of resilience as sort of an inner savings account of strength and nourishment and clarity and vitality and immunity. And so just as we save money for a rainy day, if you're having one, like we said, many of us are having today, we build up resilience reserves to sustain us through life's unexpected shifts and storms. So we know we've all had challenges in our lives. Sometimes they have been very hard to sort of adapt to respond to, and other times we were able to kind of roll with it and flow with it and find that adaptability, that flexibility, that ability to um, bend and not break. And I love looking to nature always, but especially when we're talking about resilience, because we can look at trees, right? And here I go again with trees. I love them and they are our greatest teachers. So trees grow their roots deep, quite deep. If you look up at how high a tree is and how wide it is, it's like that's the mirror of its root system. And so when I think about that, I'm just like, oh my goodness gracious, we are just covered subterraneally, if that's a word, with roots. It's wonderful. So they have really deep roots that grow steadily over time, and they really anchor themselves through storms. And we can see this bending and swaying and not breaking. Mountains, another example of they're continually growing as the plates underneath push and keep building over time. And there's this strong kind of endurance and patience about them. I actually said that about my husband the other day. We were talking about something and I said to somebody, oh yes, my husband has the patience of a mountain. So similarly, our resilience is cultivated daily. It's not something that we can like, oh, I did 5 minutes of breath practice that one day last week, and um, I ate some vegetables yesterday, so I'm good. It's it's an ongoing daily kind of lifestyle that we are intending to cultivate, where we are bringing in peace and that which nourishes us on a daily basis, so that in those moments of crisis, we have that steady, grounded foundation. And we're able to sway like the trees and stand tall like the mountains. So, about 2 years ago now, like almost to the day, it was October 26th, we lost very unexpectedly and quite traumatically our beloved doggy, Winslow. And it hit me very deeply. And it was very painful. And while it was shocking and painful and quite unexpected, it really showed me that my daily resilience nourishing practices are so important, because I was able to navigate that time in a way that kind of surprised me, honestly, truly. So in those moments of shock and grief and loss, I had a reserve to draw from. I was so grounded and so steady. Practices that had become second nature to me for, about a decade at that point, grounded me even in the face of something so challenging and sudden and traumatic. And this is truly what resilience is all about. It's about having reserves of energy and vitality, nourishment and clarity before you need them. It's not about, and we've talked about this many times, and I have lots of resources on resilience that I can share, and we teach all about this in the Everyday Rhythms program. But resilience is not about being stoic or robotic or not feeling or toughening it up and sucking it up and keep going and don't feel. It's actually quite the contrary. So the more of that inner stability and inner grounding that we have, the deeper our capacity to feel and to be with life. There's that holding, that root system, that containment we refer to as the triangle principle. So there's that structure, that holding, that then allows you to really sink in and have that ability and those resources from within to go into those places that are really tender and deep. Yeah. So the more resilience that we have, the actually like the deeper that we feel, the more that we feel, and the more that we're able to hold. And it's not always a negative or a challenging thing, right? Because the depth to which I can hold and feel grief and sorrow, anger, sadness, all of those things that we tend to want to avoid and we shun in our society because they're not the pretty high vibe emotions, whatever that means. The deeper I can feel those and the more I can hold those, guess what? The deeper I can experience their inverse, the more joy and love I'm actually able to hold and to be with. Because all of these emotions and these states are just these kinds of temporary pockets of energy that's arising, these different states, these transient states that are just passing through us. And so as I can really ground myself in that awareness and ground myself in that knowing, body's nice and healthy and strong because I'm moving it daily and I'm nourishing myself with whole foods. My nervous system is nice and happy because I'm practicing my breath practices. I'm getting my deep rest and I'm managing my energy and tending to my self-reflection time and my managing of my energy, those 5 key practices that we talk about ad nauseum. That helps me to be really grounded and rooted so that I can hold life as it happens. Does this make sense? I can be with everything as it comes. So this is the beauty of building these reserves and having them before we need them, right? It's like I said, planting that tree 10 years ago. There's this persimmon orchard. I've posted pictures in here that my partner and I go to in the fall. And when we went there this year, we're like, we really need to plant some persimmon trees. Yeah, because they're just so abundant and wonderful. And they've had their orchard for about 10 years. So yeah, like imagine and not letting that be in any way, demotivating. Like, oh well, I've never been able to face challenges. I crumble under pressure or I get sick all the time. Okay, these are stories that are maybe stories that have happened before. I'm not saying that you're making them up, but they don't need to be indicative of the future and they don't need to continue to repeat themselves. So plant those trees today. Let your mountain, your plates come together and those converging plate tectonics. I'm a California girl, so all of my science classes when I was little were all about plate tectonics. So if you're like, she's spouting some random plate tectonic stuff, yeah, I can do that a little bit. So be those plates, build your mountain, plant your trees, resilience galore. Let it be so. Every day, just in a nutshell, to reiterate, our actions either replenish or deplete us. And there's always going to be this kind of dynamism to life. Sometimes things are harder than other times. Sometimes things are easier. And when we can have that thread that remains constant throughout, that is our daily resilience nourishing practices, that's that part of us that gets to stay anchored in that kind of just steady stream of just awareness, of beingness, of life, of flow, of consciousness, and holding all of that so that we are not swept up in those temporary arisings of energy and temporary emotional states that we're met with when things change. Hopefully that made sense. Many of us spend our days these days, unfortunately, giving from a place of depletion. We try to meet life's demands without refueling ourselves. And so this leads to this deep debt, this deficit. We're like running on fumes. And then, of course, this leads to burnout and resentment and is the genesis of the disease process. The system doesn't just decide one day to throw you some, illness. There's usually a buildup, and we've gotten really good at ignoring and overriding and normalizing. So instead of living on fumes, we can actually create this lifestyle very, very simply and organically. that replenishes us and helps us give from a place of overflow rather than exhaustion. And so these three super simple natural practices that align with nature's rhythms can help you to build and sustain that reserve, that inner reserve. Grounding yourself first thing in the morning. So our nervous system is a very responsive, beautiful, adaptive, brilliant system. And when we give it just a little bit of TLC, it responds magically. When we repeat that every day, just a little bit, just that magic compounds and continues. So really starting your day, not from a place of like, I got to get up and go and, like, oh, that kind of energy. Oh, I got to do the things. Oh, I got to go to work or whatever it is. And maybe turning on the phone, turning on the news. Spend some time with yourself in silence, being alone with your thoughts. You're still so connected to that liminal otherworldly place, those deep watery realms of sleep when your unconscious mind and all of the creative solutions that are in there, the insights that are in there, this connection to spirit, if that resonates and aligns with you. So don't miss that. Ground yourself, into the earth, whatever helps you to feel really connected to you. Do that in the morning. And notice, like, this isn't, these things I'm sharing, they're not crazy. You don't need to pay for them. You don't need to like add anything. It's just like before you do anything else, you can have 3 minutes to take, 10 deep breaths and then maybe let it grow from there. Because the more that you practice these things and you taste that sweet nourishment of this resilience, that peace, the more you're going to want it, and it's naturally going to kind of take over and crowd out the other things. So this other thing to do is to eat regularly. Don't wait until you're hangry. Don't, you know, these things that I hear of people like, "Oh, I'm working through lunch." Okay, and how's that working for you? How's your brain doing? How's your body doing long term? How's your sleep that night? Because it's probably really bad. You've been doing this weird blood sugar thing to yourself. Your brain's not going to work properly for the rest of the day. It's just, these habits that our culture has normalized. So, fueling your body with whole foods at regular times throughout the day, ideally 3 meals a day that are gently cooked and seasoned and eaten with gratitude and a calm environment, very stabilizing to the body and the mind and the emotions and the energy. And then lastly, pausing to breathe throughout the day. So again, like super simple. The only way and the only reason it's hard is because we've been so trained and programmed that like we can't do that. We got to get up and we got to go. So we can't ground ourselves in the morning, or we can't stop to eat. We have to keep working, or, whatever. We can't stop to take some deep breaths. Yes, you can. You can. I'm giving you permission. So, last little bonus thing I think I'd like to add before we close is assess the resilience drainers in your life and then remove or modify them. And most often, they're going to be like actual tangible things that you can probably point to. Like drinking a pot of coffee a day is probably not the best thing. Um, like I said, going all day long without eating, being in unsupportive environments or relationships that drain you. Like sometimes we can really point to the tangible things. So assess and then remove or modify them. And the most resilience draining thing of them all is this this entity, this creature that lives between our ears, the stuff that's bouncing around in our minds. And I would invite you to go check out the recent Nature's Wisdom Circle that we did on shadow work. Very helpful stuff in there. So saying no when you want to say no, being mindful of what you consume through the senses, check in with your priorities and values in life regularly and make sure that you're living in alignment with them. And if you're not clear on what they are, spend some time identifying them. Very, very worthy of your time and energy to do that. Check in with them and ensure that you're living in integrity with them each day. So yeah, more than any superfood or trendy hack or anything like that, living in integrity with what matters most to you is the greatest thing that you can do for your health and resilience, period. This is truly an invitation for a resilience, nourishing lifestyle, not so much a one-time effort. It's just like financial savings, small, consistent actions that compound over time. So each grounding breath, each nourishing meal, each moment of reflection, every time that you speak your truth and say yes when you want to say yes and no when you want to say no, all of this adds to your reserves and really creates a well of strength. That deep strength, that true strength, not the superficial, forceful, brute strength, but that strength that's actually quite soft. That strength. You'll have more of it to draw from when you need it. And of course, look to nature, because she always shows us that resilience is cultivated in those quiet, steady moments, not in chaos. And when we live a life that's quite chaotic and irregular, and we abuse the senses and give in to negativity and don't take pause, we really deplete ourselves. So the solution is really just to kind of, like I said, slowly and simply turn towards that which brings that peace and that grounding. That daily commitment to nurturing ourselves. And this is truly the foundation of what is taught in the InnerSpark method, Everyday Rhythms. It's this framework for syncing your life with nature's wisdom to cultivate and nourish that resilience, vitality, and joy for life, for life. So as we close, I invite you to just take a moment with me and to place one hand on your heart, if that feels good, and maybe the other hand on your belly. And inviting you to close your eyes just for a moment, if it's safe for you to do so right now, if you're not operating machinery or walking around. Just tune in to that steady, quiet stability within yourself. That steady, quiet presence. And feel that part of you that is always actually okay and grounded and connected. That part of you that is simply being and observing all of the happenings. And on your next inhale, really feel yourself receiving and taking in this replenishing, nourishing, grounding energy. And exhaling all that feels ready to go, like it gets in the way of that. And a few more breaths just like that, inhaling that replenishment, that grounding earth energy, and exhaling that which is ready to go. And kind of feeling that symbiotic relationship. Mama Earth gives you the grounding, the guidance, the wisdom, the support. And you give her the junk that's ready to be composted because she is a master transmuter and composter. And when you're ready, opening your eyes and come to this remembrance, this flow anytime you feel those resilience stores being tapped into. All right. So, just in conclusion, reminding us that each day we're offered countless opportunities to replenish ourselves, and it does not take much. It's not about doing more, it's about doing in alignment and doing with intention and really doing what is natural and nourishing yourself intentionally. So, thank you so much for being here today. Let's continue this conversation inside of our naturally resilient and thriving community, where we can continue to share practices that are supporting us and inspire and share with each other. And if you're ready to go deeper, I invite you to check out one-on-one sessions with me and or to join the InnerSpark Method Everyday Rhythms program to learn how syncing with nature can help you to nourish that resilience and deepen into this healing journey and live like you want to live in a sustainable and lasting way. You can learn more at innerspark.life. And I look forward to seeing you all next time.